What's going on, college hoops heads? Chris, we're getting too close to the season for me to be able for me to make blunders like that. My name is Stephen Bagel. You guys are either watching this on the Center Hub YouTube page or the Center Hub Twitter page. With that said, we are here with contributor to the Center Hub season preview magazine, Chris Lebron. Go purchase the magazine. $12 pre-order. It'll be out in 11 days now, October 13th. We picked a day where most people will have off from work so they could really, take the time to digest it. So I'll also have it out that morning of the 13th. $12, go pre-order. It is either in the bio of this YouTube video if you're watching on YouTube, or it is our pinned tweet on Twitter if you're watching on Twitter. But again, my name is Stephen Bagel. I am joined by Chris Lebron. We are going to be talking, I know you see the banner here, so it's Talking American with Chris Lebron. We are going to be talking the American Conference and the America East. Chris, how are you doing today?
Stephen, man, I'm doing good. Once again, thanks for having me be a part of this magazine. It's been a lot of fun, deep diving into these both these conferences. A lot of intriguing teams we'll be talking about. So I'm looking forward to it.
So let me ask you, because I know when I asked you to be a part of this, I asked you, if you had any preferences of conferences, and one of the conferences you did say was the American. Again, I'm a Temple graduate myself, so I also have ties to the American. But the America East is sort of one that, I just sort of threw at you. You took it with grace. I mean, again, Vermont's always very good. They always won the better mid-majors. Bryan was awesome last year. I don't know how they'll be now. They lost Phil Martelli Jr. as head coach, but that's why I have you on to talk about that. Mm-hmm. But, what's your overall, again, you had a preference of the American East. Again, I sort of threw at you. Was this deep diving into those two conferences easier or more difficult than you expected going into it?
It was tough, but it was fun though.
Yeah.
It was difficult because especially with the American East, you really gotta with some of the bottom tier teams and NGIT and UMBC and Hampshire, UMass Lowell. I mean, I didn't really know much about UMass Lowell. I know about the other UMass, but I didn't know much about UMass Lowell. So it really, really made me go deep and really figure out okay, there's got to be something intriguing about these teams. They got to have some players that people might, want to know about. And even myself, get to know more about and learning about the coaches and transfers. I mean, obviously with the way the transfer portal is, guys are all over the place. So it's intriguing to see what guys are coming from what school. You'd be surprised at what guys are going, down a level in competition, so that one was really fun. The American was cool. I got to speak to some coaches, on the American side, but the American East was very interesting. I love that. And that's kind of why, I was happy you just threw that one at me. I was like, okay, I didn't know much about them. Obviously, Bryant, they went to the tourney last year, and Vermont has some history, but figuring out these other teams was actually really, really fun. And now I'm all going to be watching them this year and seeing how they do because, I'd spent a lot of time, trying to figure out who's on the team. And that was another thing too, is trying to because on some sites they'll say there's a player here, and then you'll figure out on another site they won't have that player. It's trying to figure out where this player is at. Some guys I figure out some guys actually went overseas to play ball and make some money. So no, it was the American East is very interesting and some intriguing teams in there too.
So let's start with the American. You alluded to, I believe you talked to 4 coaches in this conference.
Yeah. Or 5. I think 5. I talked to ECU,
Temple, ECU, FAU, Wichita State.
Wichita State, yeah. So what was that, 5?
4?
4 or 5? Yeah, in that
range. Either way, whether it's 4, whether it's 5, can you shed, a little bit of insight on any of those conversations? Again, we want people to buy the magazine. So if you're watching live, again, there's 47 of you right now. Go $12, well worth your investment. It's in the pin tweet. It's in the YouTube bio. But what kind of insight can you give us from your conversations with any of these American League coaches?
So, as I was prepping for a lot of these phone calls, I knew I didn't want to take up much of their time, right? These coaches are busy. So I knew I had 10 to 12 minutes. And one thing I noticed that a lot of these coaches said, keep going.
Yeah.
Got 15, 20 minutes from some coaches, and when I realized, and I've done podcasts, me, you've been on my podcast. I've been on, I've done these plenty of times where I know how to, formulate some questions that aren't the typical, the norm.
Yeah.
And to get the coaches a little bit comfortable, so I would start off with a little like weather banter or talk about New York, and then they always, and what's funny is like there's a lot of these coaches I talk to, they would really get excited when they talk about some of their New York guys. They're guys who played in Queens at Christ the King, or some guys who played in Harlem. So it was really fun, really to get to talk about the New York guys, because you see the excitement they get when they talk about, when I say I'm from New York, and then they're like, oh, I got this guy on my roster who's from Harlem, who's from Manhattan, who's from Queens, who's from upstate New York, and they get really excited about that. So that was good. But just trying to get the coaches comfortable and just making sure it's not the typical, but like, just trying to get, into what their process was about this new era of basketball. Cause I remember I was talking to, who was I talking to? Adam Fisher, and him talking about his process, how it was before and now, and it was very interesting how he's like, it's wild. It is the wild, wild west.
Yeah.
But you have to learn to adapt, and it takes a while. It's where you could recruit and retain. That was another thing too, a big thing. Retention, like that was a big thing. A lot of these coaches were talking like, we gotta make sure we keep our own guys. We gotta recruit our own guys to stay because they're getting played. I remember talking to coach from FAU. I'm forgetting the name, but Coach Jacobs. And he's like, they took 5 of our guys, and we could do nothing about it. We didn't have the money. And it was interesting to hear how blunt coaches were about, the NIL and guys. Hey, we got to figure a way to get some more cash, in here. So that was, that was interesting to when a lot of talk about these coaches are like, hey man, these guys are plucking our guys away, and we know the game now. We know the game. We understand the game better now. As far as not just on the court, but off the court is just as important. So that was very interesting to hear a lot of coaches that they were like, yeah, man, NIL, we have to adapt. We have to figure out how to work this. We got to get money booster. We got to do all this. And so that was very interesting when I got to talk to these coaches at how blunt they were about the transfer portal. And you always hear a lot of coaches, the negative side of the transfer portal and stuff. And I remember talking to Coach Schwartz, and he was like, I embrace it. Hey, this is fun. This is a challenge. We got to figure this thing out. Hey, if I don't want to do this, if I don't like the way college basketball is right now, then hey, I shouldn't be a head coach. So that was really interesting when he talked about that. Like, hey man, we could be negative about everything. It's just like life. There's so much negativity. But hey, we got to find the positives, and we got to figure this thing out. If I want to be a head coach still, I got to figure this thing out and win some ball games and figure out all this stuff. So that was an interesting thing about a lot of these conversations with these coaches, was just the bluntness of the transfer portal and NIL.
So let's talk a little bit, dive into the American a little bit in terms of projected standings. Like, I feel like the last however many years, I know USF had obviously a couple great years. They had the one great year under Coach Abdul Rahim, may he rest in peace. But it's been Memphis basically at the top, and like Memphis, like even if let's say USF or North Texas, whoever got UAB, did it a couple of times, got an at-large bid, or got the auto bid, Memphis was still good enough to get an at-large bid.
Yeah.
This year, I'm not sure that's the case. Like, I feel like Memphis almost needs to win the at-large bid if they want to get in the NCAA tournaments.
They got a whole new team too.
Yeah.
Like, it is completely brand new, but they brought in some very intriguing. And I talked to a buddy of mine, Francis Carlota, who covers the Memphis Tigers for Bluff City, and he says, yeah, there's a lot of turnaround, and this team might not be as good as last year, but he still thinks that they are a very, very good team and could still be in position to like what they did last year, win outright, the AAC. Like they're just that good, and they got a lot of intriguing players. I mean, Aaron Bradshaw. I mean, we've heard the name Aaron Bradshaw for how long, right? Like he's been projected to be a top 5 pick forever, right? I mean, coming out, he was supposed to be like this next generation big, and just going to Kentucky didn't work out, and goes to Ohio State, doesn't work out. And I remember talking to Francis. He was like, he said he thinks that was just a little bit too much for him.
Yeah.
That level of competition is just a little bit too much for him, especially as a big. So he thinks coming into the AAC that he should be able to wreak havoc.
Yeah.
He should be able to wreak havoc. So if not, then I don't know. We don't know if we'll ever see if he'll ever live up. But I think this is the time for him to really shine. So they got some really intriguing guys in Memphis. Yeah, they're bringing in I think legit everyone on the roster. I know his son was in Memphis, then transferred out, then came back. I think it's Ashton Hardaway. But other than that, I mean, it's a completely new roster, and the way they go about it is different too. Like they're not. Remember early on, Penny was going after the top. He was with Duke and Kentucky trying to get the big dogs, right? Yep. And now he's kind of changed that mindset. Didn't really do much as far as the freshman route. I mean, he brought in some kid from Senegal that's 7 foot, intriguing, but doesn't have a high profile. I don't even think he was ranked, but an intriguing prospect. I think he played in the NBA African Academy, but straight transfer portal, like just the whole page transfer portal. Like it's just so they bring in a lot of new guys, but a lot of these guys I feel like are really good players, and I think they might work. And like I said, not as good as last season with PJ Haggerty and no boys, but they still got a good team.
So if not Memphis, then I mean, who do you think is obviously part of writing for the magazine was also giving your conference projected standings or predictions rather. If not Memphis, then I mean, who is it?
I think it's South Florida.
Yeah.
I think South Florida's. I think the AP came out with the top 25 recently, and South Florida was outside of the top 25. I highly disagreed with that. I thought South Florida should be in that top 25. I think they were I think it went in the 30s or 40s, if I remember. But yeah, they should be top 25. I think they're that good. I think Brian Wilson is a tremendous coach. What he did at Arkansas State was absolutely brilliant. I think he comes in and he's going to do a bang up job, and I think this team should win the conference, and they should be dancing in March. Like I think they're that good. Like they got an abundance of talent, so much talent, and then they're very balanced too. I really like this team a lot.
So I'm just looking at the roster. Obviously, Coach Brian Hodson's there now. He was at Arkansas State previously. He brought 2 guys with him in Isaiah Nelson, and Joseph Pinion.
Joseph Pinion, yeah.
Yeah, forgive me for mispronouncing. Damian Collins is like another type, Aaron Bradshaw type. Like what we were talking about that, okay, maybe he just couldn't handle that level of physicality when he started at Kentucky and then played at LSU. Like he played in the SEC. Now in the American, like, is he similar again to what we said about Aaron Bradshaw? Like, is that the adjustment he needs to play at that type of level to really break out?
I think so, yeah. And we actually have seen him actually do it, to an extent. Maybe not at the level we probably thought he was coming out as a 5-star, as one of the top 10, 15 players coming out in out of high school. But we've actually seen some of it. So unlike Bradshaw, we don't know what Aaron Bradshaw is. Collins, we actually know a little bit, and I think coming down a notch in talent, I think he should know that he should be in contention for all league first team player of the year. Like he really should be that level because he should take care of business in this conference.
So I want to talk about a team that maybe our listeners don't care as much about. They should. Because the basketball history is very rich. So the 5th most winningest program ever. One of only 6 teams to have 2,000 career wins? 2,000 career wins. I was at the 2,000th win, so I should know this. But that's the Temple Owls. You already alluded to it. You had a chance to speak with Coach Fisher, but what do you make? They're another team. Like, yes, they do have 2 returning starters who are both freshmen last year. You anticipate both those guys making a jump, but otherwise, like, there's a lot of transfers. Like, they have a lot of transfers. And, like, same thing, though, it's the Aaron Bradshaw effect. It's the Damian Collins effect. Like, Gavin Griffith was a former 4-star.
Yep.
He played at Rutgers. He played at Nebraska. He's still finding himself. Like, again, high major. Those are both Big Ten schools. Maybe he's another guy that just needs to bump down a little bit to the American to really, for lack of a better term, break out.
Yeah.
So what do you think about Temple specifically?
Temple's intriguing. They're an intriguing team. They 17-15 last year, finished 500. Like I said, some ups and downs, but they can score. And like I said, bring in an abundance of transfers. And that was one thing. One thing I talked about with Coach, because they had a stretch where I think they lost like 6 straight, but like 5 of those games were like single digits. A couple of those, overtime losses. And I talked to him about close games and how do you get over that hump. And he's flat out just said, our guys were hurt. Jamal Mashburn maybe is like an All-American level player if he doesn't get hurt, like missing the back half of that season. I mean, who knows what Temple really could have been if he doesn't get hurt and missed, a good portion of the season, because he was so good, so, and Steve Settle, like another one, like losing him too, that's big. These are guys who are really big pieces to this Temple team. But he really did a bang up job in the portal to really bring in some good play. Like I said, Gavin Griffiths, like I said, former 4-star, was at Nebraska, really trying to, he's someone that, I think we see the star rating and we expect immediate success, and listen, not everyone goes to the right situation and the level competition is big. And so, like we mentioned with a few other guys, with Collins and Bradshaw, maybe for Gavin, who didn't play much at Nebraska, last year. So maybe stepping down in the level of competition, just like those other guys, maybe this is what he needed to get that. Confidence is so key. And that's another thing what you mentioned with the coaches. They're like, it's confidence. Some of these kids just need the confidence. Yeah. Like they just need to see the ball go in a little bit more than what they were seeing at the previous. And that's another big thing is, Gavin can play. Gavin could play. He could play. I know he could play. So I think at Temple, I think Coach Fisher is going to get the best out of him. And they got some other intriguing that, he really balanced the portal. He really got good, trio of guards, getting some interesting bigs in Jemai Felt, who comes in for Bowling Green, Spencer Mahoney, another big, so they really, they really attacked and really got some really interesting guys that I feel like are going to fit in really seemingly, really smooth.
And they have, 5 really good guards. Jordan Mason from Illinois, Chicago. Swish Gilliard from Manhattan, 11 points, 7 rebounds a game, over 7 rebounds a game last year. He's 6'3".
Yeah.
Obviously, AJ Smith from Charleston, who's one of the better traditionally CAA teams. Darion Ford, who was on Arkansas State, who tied for first place in the Sun Belt last year. CJ Hines was on an NCAA tournament last year in Alabama State and was a 1,000-point scorer.
So another guy that I talked about, because I asked him about who's a guy that we need to be talking about more, and he brought up Aiden Tobiasen, who was a freshman last year who wound up coming back. And we know, especially in the American, you see not a lot of guys came back. Like you see there's a lot of turnover. You see both teams with getting 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 guys plus, transfers. But he talked about, Aiden Tobiasen and that, he came in, he stood, and he gave him a lot of props for staying, and really thinks he's going to make a big leap. I think he shot over 40%. It was on small sample size, but still shot over 40% from 3, and is someone that's really intriguing, has the size, 6'6", so that's someone I think is going to be a factor in, I know they brought in a bunch of guards, but I think he's going to be a factor in that guard rotation.
I covered Temple, I think, like 12 or 14 times last year. Mm-hmm. I covered them the first few games. Tobiasen wasn't even in the rotation. Like he wasn't even leaving the bench. Mm-hmm. Then out of nowhere, he's starting. Like that's just a testament to him and his growth and development as a player, to how quickly. And once he was in the starting lineup, like Fisher trusted him. Like he took it and ran with it.
Oh, he played, yeah. It was like late in conference play. I think it was like the South Florida game, if I recall talking about him. That's when he really blossomed. And then you put in the work. Coach said he's putting in the work, and we see this. We see the results. And from there on, he was playing big. He went from playing, like you said, was playing sparingly, maybe 5 minutes here, 7 minutes here, 10 minutes there. The occasional maybe 20 minutes if in a blowout. But he went from that to, no, you're playing, you're starting, you're getting legit minutes versus big time teams. You're going to play against South Florida. You're going to play against Memphis. You're going to play against FAU. You're going to play big time minutes, and we trust you. So he really showed that, and he really showed in his play towards the end of the season.
I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit here. Which, if I had to say, we talked about, Memphis and USF potentially both being tournament teams. Which team in this conference do you think could pretty much surprise everyone?
Ooh, who could surprise? You know what's crazy? I found myself liking a lot more teams in this conference than not. And I think this league has been like a one-bid league. I think they're going to compete to get a couple teams in here. I really like this conference. I think there's a lot more good teams than bad. Like I didn't come away thinking there's a lot of bad teams. Like there's some teams at the bottom, okay, but there's only a couple teams. I'm like, I don't know. But for the most, there's teams that I think are really more like they're going to surprise some people. Tulsa, okay. I find myself thinking, okay, I think I like Tulsa. I think they could do some things. They're really intriguing. They've kind of been in the middle of the pack, but I think, what Coach Conkle's doing over there. I think he got some good guys in the transfer portal. I found myself thinking, okay, like I think this Tulsa team can maybe do some things. Maybe not win it, but like they're gonna be in it. They're gonna battle. I know they were under 500 last year, but I think this team's they're going to be their team. I think could be sneaky good this year.
What about? I have two, just for the same question: Tulane and Wichita State. I dig both those teams. Mm-hmm. For Wichita State specifically, like Paul Mills, he's always been. I know the years he had Max Asmus and Kevin Obanor at Oral Roberts, like that was a very good offense for a summer league team. But Paul Mills at Wichita State, they're very traditional, defensive-minded type program. Yeah. They got a Karan Boyd, who was SoCon Defensive Player of the Year last year. They got Kenyon Giles, who also comes from the SoCon. He averaged 15 points a game at UNC Greensboro. Will Berg has Purdue pedigree. He's 7'2". Yeah. There's a lot of reasons. Dylan Batiste came from Temple. He played a little bit as a freshman last year. Mm-hmm. Michael Gray from Nichols, Jarrett Valencia from Monmouth. Like they just have a whole bunch
Brian
of guys.
Brian from Fresno State is another intriguing guy. He's coming in, as a freshman, played some really good minutes last year at Fresno State. So he's another one that's intriguing. Michael Gray from Nichols State too. They're another team that really and they got some good talent in the transport too. So Wichita State's another team that should be, in that top four in the American. And they can get back to those glory years where we always talk about, the little mid majors and the Cinderellas, and they're always in that 30-win team. We think about the Fred VanVleet days. They may not get to that level, but they're going to be battling up at the top of that conference.
Those type of teams always seem to come from the Missouri Valley too. Mm-hmm. Like Creighton before they were Big East, they were in the Missouri Valley. Wichita State, I think, was in the Missouri Valley before they joined the American. Butler was in the Horizon, and they ended up Big East. But nonetheless, Tulane's another one. They bring back their backcourt with Rowan Drumbauer and Asher Woods.
Mm-hmm. Asher Woods could play.
Yeah, I mean, they both could play. And same thing, we talked about three guys in this conference now that just maybe needed to be at a high-level mid-major conference rather than a high major with Bradshaw and Griffiths
Mm-hmm.
and Damian Collins. What about Scotty Middleton? He's on Tulane. He was
Yeah. It's
when he was at Ohio
5 star.
State, he was a 4-star.
Mm-hmm.
So he's another one. Like,
That's why I like so many teams in this, because they bringing in so many guys that have high pedigree. Were big 4-star, 5 stars, and like you said, everyone's development is different. Like I said, a lot of these kids, they see the big schools and hey, they're going to go to the big schools, but that's not always the route you should take. It's okay if you go to the smaller conferences and develop, and then if you want to make your way up to go to the big boys, you could do that. But a lot of that's why we see so many guys bounce. And that's another thing. Just doing research, you see how many guys are on their 5th school in 5 years, 4th school in 4 years. You just see how crazy it is. But everyone's just looking for an opportunity. And in this conference especially, we see so much change. Like this conference might have the most change out of any conference. I don't know about but I remember just being like, wait, this guy's not here no more. And looking at the roster the year before, and then matching it up, when I'm like, they have no one coming back. Like Memphis, no one coming back. This team doesn't have 2 guys coming back. It's just really intriguing. But that's what I like about this conference is a lot of these teams, that they can bring in a lot of guys that just looking for an opportunity and are hungry. So that's why there's a lot of teams that I really like in this conference.
What I will say,
ECU too. I got to talk to Coach. That's another team that I think could really do some things this year. Like ECU has a sneaky good team. They maybe I'll take them over Tulsa. Maybe that's my sneaky team is ECU.
Okay. I was gonna say I did a similar publication last year. I was a contributor for it for the ECB magazine, the House of College Hoops. I wrote the American for them last year. So Chris, this time last year I was sitting in your chair in terms of being able to talk about the American, and of course I cover Temple as credentialed media, so I have the opportunity to see a lot of these teams up close and personal. But ECU, he's really building something. He was excited last year when I spoke to him. And ECU has just been I don't want to say bottom dweller, but for lack of a better term, that's what they've been for years. But since Schwartz has taken over, they're really starting to that culture is starting to really become something.
Yeah, they've upped in conference play. They've gotten it better each year. They went from 6 wins, 7 wins, and they got double-digit wins last year. So almost won 20 games. They could have won 25 games. They lost a lot of close games too. So he's doing a really good job there, and I think they should be a team that should be in that top tier. Another team in that top 5, 6 of the conference.
So if you had to, you do have to because for the magazine you're doing it. If you had to say one player to win, actually, let's do this. Give me your all AAC first team. I'm looking in the Google Drive now that we have for behind the scenes for the magazine. I don't think I've seen you upload it, so
my all AAC. Okay.
I'm gonna put you on the spot a little bit here if you didn't do it yet.
No, let's do it on the spot. Let me put
the magazine anyway. So figure you're gonna have at least one Memphis guy on there. Probably figure with everything going on with Sincere Parker and who knows when he's gonna play.
Doug McDaniel.
Okay, that's what I was gonna say.
Doug McDaniel's on there. Give me.
Do you have all the teams written on a notepad?
I write. Yeah.
You're old school. I like it.
I'm old school. I write everything down. I write everything down still. I can't. That's why typing. I was like, I wish I could just hand in my loose leaf paper and do it that way. Let's go, Giles.
Okay.
Wichita State. Okay, so that's 2.
Probably someone on USF.
USF. Let's go, Damian Collins.
Okay.
Who else? I had him. I'm gonna go with Dezane Mingo from Charlotte.
Okay.
I really like. I think he's gonna have a monster season.
And then what about the Tulane guy, Drumbauer? I think he's a returning leading scorer in the conference.
And that was my other guy. Okay. So that's my 5.
Okay. So then let's pivot to the America East. Again, we alluded to a little bit when we first got started here, Chris, but for the America East, it's always Vermont. Like, I think Vermont literally what? Let's see how many years in a row you might know the answers to the write-up. Do you think Vermont made the tournament before last year? Not including the COVID year, obviously, when the tournament didn't happen.
4 or 5 years they made it a few times, right? It was like 4 times they made it under Becker, right? Because Becker's been there for what, 14 seasons?
So Becker, yeah, he
15 seasons. He's been there 15 years. You know, and they were in the tournament before last year. They were in the tournament, I think, 3 or 4 straight seasons.
They missed last year. They were in the tournament for 3 straight years before that.
Yeah, they went for 3 straight, yeah.
21, they missed it. They were the 1 seed, but UMBC beat them and then upset Virginia, who's the number 1 overall seed in the tournament.
Mm-hmm.
2020, the tournament was canceled, but Vermont was 14-2 in conference and might have, won the conference tournament.
Yeah.
And 2019, they went 14-2 in the conference, won the tournament. 2018, they missed it. 2017, they were 63rd overall in Ken Palm in 2017 and made it. Just how tough it is to take Vermont to 63rd. Even in 2022, they finished 54th overall. They went 17-1 in conference and 28-6 overall. Just how tough it is to make Vermont. Only John Becker could do that,
Only. And I think he has 19 wins in every season other than the COVID year, I think, right? Is that?
He has 20 wins in every season except the COVID year.
Yeah, except for the COVID year, which, he probably wins 20 games that year if we prorate it.
They went 10-5 in the.
They went 10-5. Obviously, you can't win 20 games if you want to play 15. So he probably wins 20 in that season if we have a full year. So like he's done a bang up job. They went 13-3 in the conference. So like it's just the mainstay. Vermont's just there. Bryan, obviously another good team. They won the conference last year, the conference championship. They're another team. Those are the 2 powerhouses in that conference. To be, they are at the top of that conference. Those are the 2 big dogs, and they are still the 2 big dogs. Coming into the 25-26 season.
That's what I was going to ask. Is Bryan still a big dog in that conference? Because I know, like, obviously Vermont always is up there, and as long as they have Coach Hurley or Coach Becker, they're going to be there. But they do have TJ Hurley coming back and TJ Long coming back.
Mm-hmm.
Bryan obviously has substantial loss with Phil Martelli Jr., and their best player from last year followed him to VCU.
Yeah.
So Bryan, I know they have Young, who played at Maryland. He got the extra JUCO year. I know they have Keegan Harvey from Georgia Washington, who barely played last year.
Ja'Kai Robinson from the U, he goes there too. Like they got some Aaron Davis too, another big time jumbo wing, 6'7", can do some things. So like Bryan, like they lost some guys. Obviously they lose Phil Martelli, but they bring in some guys. And Christian, Coach Christian's, he's no slouch. So like he's gonna have them still rocking and rolling. Like I don't think they're gonna miss a beat, to be honest.
For what it's worth, they do have 7 freshmen on this roster. That's intriguing for multiple reasons. One, because it shows how young the roster is, but also, like, at the same time, you anticipate 1 or 2 of those guys really breaking out. If that makes sense?
Yeah.
Let me see. Let's talk about Vermont specifically, because obviously we just alluded to TJ Hurley and TJ Long are both on this roster. They have this Is that Spanish point guard on the roster? Because I know like there were questions about whether – I know he was initially on the roster, but it was reported that he committed there. Lucas Murray, do you know anything about that or no?
No, I don't know too much about that with him.
Yeah. I'm basing off of Jim Root's ongoing roster sheet that he updates. He has Lucas Murray as a starting point guard, but he says he isn't on the official roster yet as of 7/31. But that was a little bit.
Then with this conference, it was definitely tough to figure out who's on the team, who's not.
We've had similar issues with similar conferences.
Yeah, it was tough to get like confirmation, and then you try to do the deep dive, Google or Twitter, try to find, and it was tough to find who's on, who's officially on the team, who's not. So that was the one thing about this conference that you really had to do your homework with this one.
Yeah. So then I'm going to ask you, if you did your homework for this conference, like, Educate us. I mean, you know this conference at this point better than I do. What have you learned while doing this conference? Same thing. Is there like a sleeper team in this conference other than Vermont and Giants?
I think UMBC
Okay.
is should get back to to relevancy. Obviously, we know what they did a few years back in UVA, but they got some intriguing guys. Josh Adonwu, was a guy transfer coming in, was a 12-6 guy. He's going to be interesting. Was top 12 in steals and blocks. So he's coming in. He should provide serious you know some serious help for them. So they got some Ace Valentine, another one who I like there. So they're a team that I think that should they were only 13-19, but I think they're gonna be a team that is gonna be near the top. Maybe even right behind Vermont and Bryant. I think they got a pretty good team.
What about UMass Lowell? I know you talked about them a little bit. I know you said I'm going to challenge you a little bit because you said you just learned a whole bunch about them that maybe you didn't know before. UMass Lowell, I would say, is probably behind Bryant and Vermont. Traditionally, the third best team in this conference most years. Either the record is like, who is it? The guy at East Tennessee State now that they lost. Cam Morris. He was there last year. Martin Somerville was there last year. Quinn and Mincy. Like, this program does Yuri Covington, Max Brooks. Like, they do. I've seen the 5 starters from last year, basically, but they traditionally produce pretty good players. This program's like pretty good at player development. I will say that.
Yeah, a lot of the guys they brought in, I'm not sure. I think they're one of those teams that they might fall. They might fall near the bottom. I didn't find myself really intrigued with who they have, but like I said, they usually are a solid team. But there's some other, like Maine, I think is going to be above them. Albany, in Binghamton, Binghamton. I found myself thinking, okay, I kind of like what Binghamton's doing. They might be a sneaky good team also in the American East, but but it just to go like NGIT, like to see what they have. They have some intriguing players. Not saying they're going to do anything. They haven't been historically a good basketball program, but they got some guys that are intriguing. That I read up on. I'm like, okay, Quentin Duncan was someone. He shot over 45%, 42% from 3. Like, he's an intriguing guy. He comes back. He was twice All-American East Player of the Week. So, they're interesting. I never thought I would be talking much about NGIT, but they're interesting. Like I said, Albany, Maine, Binghamton. Especially Maine. Maine's another one where I'm like, okay, like obviously, most people who ever think about Maine, they think about Cooper Flagg's brother going there. Ace Flag going there, but they got some intriguing. They were a pretty good team last year. They finished above 500, won 20 games, finished I think they won 11 or 12 games in conference. So they made it to the title game. Lost to Bryant. So they're another team that that returns a lot of good players and obviously brings in some good freshmen. Which you don't expect from Maine, but on top of Ace, they brought some good freshmen and some solid transfer portal guys. So they're a team that could be up there too. I like them. Albany too, another team. Finished a little bit above 500. They got some. They're another team that is intriguing too. So, like I said, it was fun doing this conference. Like, yeah, it was tough. You threw me a 12-6 curveball, and I was like, whoa. But I took me a few times to read it, and I was like, okay, this it's fun. It was really fun to really figure out and see more about these teams. It was real fun. It was real fun.
So, okay. And for what's up, Maine, Chris Markwood, he could coach. He's like a legitimately good.
Yeah, he's a good coach. Yeah, he won't be there long. No. He won't be there long.
It reminds me a little bit of Ryan Odom at UMBC type feel.
Yeah, he's got that vibe to him. He's a good coach.
Let me see. Speaking of UMBC, I know you talked about Ace Valentine a little bit, Josh Odunowo. This conference is so tough. It's really so difficult to gauge a lot of these conferences when there's so many transfers and incoming guys. But when there's this many guys, like for UMBC, for example, when there's so many Division II guys coming in, I'm not saying Division II guys can't play because that's not the case at all. But not every Division II guy is going to translate at the Division I level.
Yeah.
So there's always going to be some that do, but that's where it gets difficult. It's okay, well, how do I decipher between when I'm putting together my conference standings or conference predictions, how these D2 guys are going to go?
Yeah, and the JUCO guys, you're trying to see how they translate. I remember talking to a few coaches, and I was like, how do you know, how do you kind of project some of these JUCO guys to the next level? And there, a lot of these coaches would tell me we just got to do a lot of homework, and we see if some of their, how they play, and if it translates to the style of play. Because remember, it's not just the style of play we're playing, but everyone else is doing the same thing. Everyone else got a bunch of new players too that they, we got to figure out. So not only do we have to figure out our stuff, but we got to figure out how do we got to work against all these other teams who have a whole bunch of new players too. So and that could be, that could sometimes benefit a lot of these guys now coming in because everyone's new. Everyone's new. So no one's oh yeah, we've seen this guy play here for 3 years. No, everyone's new. So that sometimes could benefit too a lot of these JUCO guys coming in because they don't know how I play. So everyone's going through the same phases, in these type of conferences. So some of these JUCO guys are really gonna. There was a lot of good JUCO guys that I'm really intrigued about, in both these conferences that really should blossom, this season.
So I'm just using Blue Ribbon as an example of their America East. They're all conference team. They have the two guys at Vermont, TJ Hurley, TJ Long that we talked about. They have Josh Odunawo from UMBC.
Yeah.
They have Quincy Allen from Bryant.
Quincy Allen, yes.
They have Jeremiah Quigley from Binghamton. Player of the year, they have TJ Hurley from Vermont. Newcomer of the year, a guy I had the pleasure of covering last year as he played in the Big Five, Demetrius Lilly from Binghamton, who played in the South last year. So, even just looking at that starting five, or not starting five, but all conference team, that's still. Let me ask you this. Let's do a fun exercise real quick before we finish up. Let's say that all conference team was a starting five, owning a team. Where would the All America East team finish in the American Conference?
Ooh. Where would they finish?
Do you think that America East Super team could compete with Memphis and USF?
No.
Okay.
I don't think so. No. They would be okay.
They'd probably be better than Rice and Charlotte, who are probably the bottom.
They would be better than Rice and
do you think
UTSA? They would be in that bottom four, I would say.
I was gonna say, so you still think Temple would beat the?
Yeah. They would, to this Temple team, yeah, they would walk them. They would walk them for sure. Yeah. But it's still they would scrap. That's a scrappy team. They gonna fight. But yeah, they would be near the bottom. But that's interesting to think about So that's a good team. That's a solid team. But yeah, they would struggle in the American.
I don't know. I think I'm a little higher on because I'm just thinking Vermont. Becker has gotten these guys up to 50, 60 in Kempom, like we said. You're taking the two best guys, and you're taking the best guy from Bryan and best guy from you. I don't know. I think we might be underestimating a little bit, but either way,
you might be right. I might have to let that marinate a little bit in my head.
I know. I put you on the spot. I was thinking
there's so many names, and that's the thing, man. There's so many names. You try to figure out. All right. Oh well, that's the. So there's so many names to remember too. But yeah, no, that's an interesting. I might have to let them in. Maybe in a day or two, I might bump them up a few, spots in the American if they would have this fantasy matchup.
Yeah. Okay. Are you a Yankees fan?
Yep.
I thought so.
Stressed out.
I need to get Chris off the stream before the Yankees game starts. Chris, any final thoughts, or you think we covered pretty much everything? Everything that we want to give away while encouraging people to still buy the magazine, that is.
Buy the magazine. Simple.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of great people, and the fact that you had me a part of those group of guys, like I'm honored. The guy Kev, me and Kev have done some stuff. College basketball previews. He's one of the best basketball mind. Sometimes I'm like, this kid knows everything, man. He's a good. So you got a lot of great minds a part of this. I really, really suggest you guys buy this magazine because it's going to be very insightful. As you see, breaking down the American East, got some good intel with the American. Talk to a bunch of coaches, so you'll get some good insight about some players you might not know about. Get some intel on that. So just go buy the magazine. It's good. It's going to be a go. I'm excited. I can't wait till it comes out, and really looking forward to seeing the rollout for that. It should be a good day. I can't wait for that day.
So again, that's 11 days away, October 13th. Chris took the words out of my mouth. Go buy the magazine. $12 pre-order right now. Link, excuse me. Link is in the YouTube bio of this video, or you can see it in the pinned tweet on Twitter. Either way, $12. Go purchase it. You can follow me on Twitter at @the_NBAGel. That's _NBAGELL. Go listen to the Bird Reds podcast for my NBA content. Go listen to my One and Done podcast for college basketball content. Content's been a little slow on the Center Hub as well, given over half our writers are working on the magazine, which is a monster of a project. But
I haven't done any basketball. I haven't podcasted myself. I've been all in on this, and I told myself once this is all done, then I'll get back to obviously talking about the Knicks and everything in the NBA. But I've been locked in on this. Diving on NGIT, takes a lot out of you.
Well, the real sickos. That's why I had you and Kev on here because I knew you guys were real sickos.
Oh man, it was a great. Like I said, I'm happy you threw that one at me because I was like, when I first got that, and I looked at the teams, I was like, okay, I didn't know that was a team. Okay, all right, well, we'll figure this thing out, and just doing the homework on it. It was fun though. It was a lot of fun.
Okay, Chris, anything you want to promote before we sign off?
No, follow me at Off the Ball Pod. I'm talking all things basketball. Like I said, I'll be talking college basketball, high school, NBA, you name it, talking all things basketball. So, follow me on there. That's where I'm most active on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Make sure to follow me at Off the Ball Podcast on YouTube. But yeah, I appreciate you, man.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you. Otherwise, pretty much it. So that said, we appreciate all of you guys for watching. And again, go purchase the magazine. It'll be well worth the $12. Yes. Myself, Chris, I will, again, every Tuesday, Thursday, leading up to college basketball season, we're doing a live stream, 7 p.m. Eastern. I will talk to you guys Tuesday with that said. And we are out. Talk to you guys later.